Let's bring in Democratic Representative from Nevada, Stephen Horsford. He sits on the House Ways and Means Committee. He's also Chairman Emeritus of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congressman, I want to start with what we were just talking about, this arrest of Newark's Mayor Ras Baraka. He was taken into custody, the administration is saying, for attempting to enter an ICE detention center. What is your reaction, and what message does this arrest send to other lawmakers?
Well, thank you, Christina, for having me on. And look, two things are true about the detainment of Mayor Baraka. And one is that the Trump administration continues to implement policies that are chaotic. And number two, elected officials, on behalf of the constituents they represent, have every right to hold this administration accountable. Mayor Baraka was there with several members of the Congressional Black Caucus who represent that area. They were there doing their duty on behalf of their constituents, providing oversight. And the fact that the mayor was joining them, he represents that city and had already raised major concerns about the lack of building permits over this for-profit detention facility. And so I think that there needs to be more accountability of this administration, and elected officials in Congress or the local officials, in this case, Mayor Baraka, have every right to act on behalf of their constituents.
And this is not the only place we're seeing this. There are several closed or defunct former prisons around the country that the administration is trying to reopen to turn into detention facilities. But a lot of them, as the mayor was alleging, don't have the correct permitting, haven't gotten the permission of the local governments. Could these local governments provide a backstop to some of these administration policies?
Well, I know that Donald Trump and his administration don't believe it, but we are under a rule of law. They may have authoritarian tactics, but there are roles to play at the local and state level when it comes to the operation of any facilities, detention or otherwise. I have a local facility like this in the rural part of my district. I have conducted oversight tours of that facility in the past, and I plan to do it again. And I would commend to this administration that I have every right to do that, as do my colleagues who joined with Mayor Baraka the other day, because it's our constitutional duty under the Article 1 Constitution and as members of Congress.
I also want to ask you about this effort House Democrats are making, it's kind of a long shot effort on the Hill to try to stop these drastic cuts to Medicaid and SNAP benefits as part of this GOP mega bill. All right, we're going to dig into some parliamentary procedure here, so stick with me. Maybe you can help explain it. But they've put forward a discharge petition, which, with enough signatures, would force a floor vote on the bill and prevent the House from making cuts to these key services. Can you tell us more about this Democratic strategy here, and do you think it's going to work?
Well, Leader Jeffries and House Democrats are working every angle possible to prevent some of the most devastating cuts that congressional Republicans and Donald Trump are trying to enact on the American people. Republicans have said that they don't want to cut Medicaid or take away nutrition programs for children and seniors. This is their opportunity to join with Democrats to tell their leadership, no cuts. Hands off our Medicaid, hands off nutrition assistance, hands off veterans care, and to make sure that these areas are not included in the budget reconciliation. Now, sadly, Christina, this week, we also have markups that are scheduled in the three major committees: Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, and Agriculture. And those committees will be taking action on the various provisions of the Screw America bill. I'm concerned that they're going to take these actions in the dead of the night. They're going to attempt to cause the largest cut to Medicaid, which will affect everyone's health care, and to take away nutrition assistance for children and seniors. To do what? To give tax breaks to Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and billionaires like them. We are
So if
going to
you
work
think-
hard to make sure that that doesn't happen.
I was going to say, so if you think that's going to happen in the middle of the night, one of the criticisms people have given towards Democrats is do more, do enough. So if you think they're going to do this, what do? Do you camp out in the halls in the middle of the night? Do you keep an eye? Do you get on the committees? What can you do?
Well, as a member of the Ways and Means Committee, led by Ranking Member Neal, House Democrats are coming in ready and prepared. Not only are we going to fight back against the permanent tax cuts for billionaires, but we have proposals to give permanent tax breaks to moms and dads, to actually address the housing affordability crisis in our country, to enact policies that actually help working class families and the middle class, and to not do that on the backs of Americans by causing these taxes, which are, these tariffs, which are taxes, to be enacted on the American people. We have a comprehensive approach, and it's led by Leader Jeffries and the ranking members of those committees.
I also want to ask you, since you represent Las Vegas, a big service industry town, one of Trump's most repeated campaign promise was no tax on tips. It's part of this, quote, big, beautiful bill, as they've called it. You just called it something else. I can't repeat. But, the Economic Policy Institute argues that this would actually hurt more workers than it would help. What is your take on this? Do you support eliminating tax on tips, or do you support leaving it as is?
So I have introduced legislation based on the input of the workers in Las Vegas and across the country. My bill, the TIPS Act, not only eliminates the tax on tips, because a tip is a gift, it is not a guarantee. And in many places in the country, people are getting paid as little as $2.13 an hour. And so my bill does two things. One, it lifts the wage of tipped workers to at least the federal minimum wage or higher, and it ensures that there are safeguards so that if the no tax on tips policy is implemented, we make sure that workers continue to pay in for their Social Security, that it's capped at a certain amount so that it can't be abused, and lastly, that hedge funds aren't able to call this program a gift and no longer pay tax on it. So those are important safeguards that my bill includes.
All right, Congressman Stephen Horsford, thank you so much for joining us.